Chapter 1277. It didn't take long for the marching rations of 189 people to heat up. The place next to the rations for boiling soup also bulged. The thing inside swelled after drinking water. Licking his lips, Lu Bo asked Shang-Chi, "Do you want to open it? There's pork inside." "Open it, it's not like I haven't seen a pig before." "I don't want to eat it." Shang-Chi insisted on seeing what it was. Before Lu Bo opened it, someone opened it first and cheered happily, "Mine is braised pork and green beans." "I know it. It's rice from the northern part of Hebei province. There are also a few pickles. Let me see, spicy radish strips and platycodon." Obviously, the person who opened it was a member of Lu Bo's group. How could the people at the border know what was inside? "Mine is too. One is twice-cooked pork and the other is pickled eggplant strips. Unfortunately, mine doesn't have pickles." Another person shouted happily. "Let me see mine. Let me see mine. It's here. Look, ha, 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 it's my favorite fried pork with garlic. The pickles are pickled cucumbers. It smells like my hometown." The third person was also very happy. "Mine is gong bao ji ding, mine is soft fried pork tenderloin with dipping sauce, mine is scrambled eggs with chives." "I don't like chives. Who can change with me?" "Mine is pickled eggplant mixed with garlic." "Does anyone like garlic?" "Mine is white meat with winter melon." "I gave you garlic." "Mine is grilled mutton." "Oh, it's not pork." "What are you doing?" "It's pork." "Do you dare to hit me?" "I'll die for you." "Here, give me another one." Another person found that his dish was actually mutton and regretted shouting it out. As a result, many people were not stupid. They immediately grabbed it and made a gesture of wanting to hit him. He was not afraid. He straightened his neck and threatened to ask for another one. Anyway, as long as there was one, he didn't have to eat mutton. Lu Bo looked at Shang-Chi and opened his own. After taking a closer look, he helplessly handed it to Shang-Chi and said, "Mine is scallion beef tendons. It's cooked beef tendons stir-fried with scallions and coriander. The side dish is ginger fish shredded with shredded ginger and salty sea fish. Let me smell the soup. Seaweed soup. Here, you can eat it. There's no pig in it." Shang-Chi listened, and when Lu Bo passed it to him, he took it without any backbone. He wanted to cry. Was this the rations of the great Tang? The other side came from afar to fight and ate this. On the other hand, they ate stir-fried noodles, which were made by the people at the border. Otherwise, they would always eat stir-fried rice, which was called Highland barley rice in the Great Tang. It was used to feed the animals, and with some salted and dried meat, it was a marching ration. She had never heard of the same dish before. Did she really think that she didn't know what she was doing? This was called a combination of meat and vegetables. The pickles were determined based on one's personal taste. It wasn't a must to eat them. If one didn't want to eat them, they could leave them alone or exchange with others. Also, take some pork. It smelled good. Why didn't the doctrine allow them to eat it? The war was so cowardly. Lu Bo suddenly felt a sense of sympathy. He thought, it's so bitter to eat so many people. You should be occupied by us earlier. We'll let you live a good life. Look at what you soldiers eat. Don't you feel sad? After thinking about it, Lu Bo began to choose the marching ration again. In fact, there were words on the packaging. His people shouted them out to provoke the people who ate many people. Just like the person who said that he didn't like to eat chives. Others might not know you, but how could I not know you? When I went to your house, I saw that your dumplings were full. 4 out of 5 times, they were vegetarian and 3 delicacies. If you don't like to eat them, why did you make them? Did you think that my dumplings didn't have other fillings? I'll exchange with you later. Let's see if you want to exchange. Lu Bo's mood suddenly became cheerful, even though he knew that he was still a hostage. He chose from the box and shouted to Shang-Chi, General Shang-Chi, look, this is something you can eat. Do you want to eat it? Shang-Chi was about to nod when his expression suddenly changed. He laughed and said, there's no hurry. You eat it first. As he spoke, he handed back the marching ration that he had just received. Lu Bo understood. He was afraid that it was poisoned. He took it and ate it. He was not afraid. He knew that the seedling protection team would not make such a stupid plan. They were all elites and could not lack schemers. Since that was the case, if it were him, he would not believe what he ate either. How could he add something to it the first time? That would kill his own people. After happily eating a few mouthfuls, Lu Bo praised loudly, the marching ration of the Zhang family and Wang family is really delicious. Yes, it's delicious. It's better than the food I've eaten in the restaurant before. You can reheat it when it's cold. Another person echoed loudly. I guess he's a chef from between the clouds and the water. Ordinary people can't do that. Another person shouted. Wait. Shang-Chi grabbed Lu Bo's arm and asked, what's the Zhang family and Wang family? It's the Tang Empire army around us. General Shang-Chi, don't you know? I saw it very clearly. There are members of the number 0 seedling protection team and number 1 seedling protection team of the Zhang family and the number 1 seedling protection team. They formed a team and are beside us, waiting for an opportunity. Lu Bo said to Shang-Chi in a daze. Shang-Chi was also stunned. Of course, he knew about the Zhang family and Wang family of Sanshui County of the Tang Empire. Some people said that the Tang Empire would be completely destroyed if they killed people from the two families. As long as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang one of the two families were alive, it would be useless no matter how much land they conquered. As long as they came out personally, the world of the Tang Empire would be peaceful. Now it's their people. At this moment, Shang-Chi did not even have the mood to pray to Allah. He only felt cold all over. He knew too well what the seedling protection team was. It sounded like farming, but in fact, it had nothing to do with farming. That was the seedling protection team. In the past few years, how many people on his side had died in the hands of the seedling protection team? Those with higher positions than him, those with higher positions, were targeted by the seedling protection team and died just like that. Allah seemed to have lost all effect in front of the seedling protection team. Why is it them? Shang-Chi reached out and grabbed Lu Bo, who was still chewing, and asked hatefully. Lu Bo was very happy. He thought to himself, you also know fear. Weren't you very supportive of Niu Qi before? You said that once I'm in your hands, I'll die if you want me to die. If you want me to live, I'll live. Why are you trembling now? Motherfucker, just wait for your death. You think that you did it without anyone noticing, but do you know that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo have arrived in Izhou? You're very contradictory. You think that if you catch me, I alone am not important to the Tang Empire, but you also want to use me to threaten the Tang Empire. But Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are not contradictory. As long as you catch me, they'll definitely send people to rescue me when they get the news, even if it's thousands of li away. You can just wait for your death. If I live, you might live as a slave. If I die, you won't be able to die a quick death even if you want to. Lu Bo was just about to laugh to express his feelings when he suddenly remembered that there were still people working hard for him. He had to cooperate and ensure that all the hostages were safe. He couldn't be impulsive. He definitely couldn't. Otherwise, he would be letting down Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Thus, Lu Bo put on a flattering smile and said to Shang-Chi in a gentle voice, "General Shang-Chi, there's no need to care about them. They're actually not as powerful as the legends say. Look, we're with you right now, but they're still watching from the side." "But I'm really scared," Shang-Chi unconsciously said. "It's okay, it's really okay. They just don't want us to die. As long as none of us lose our lives or suffer heavy injuries, they won't do anything unless someone suddenly dies." Lu Bo took this opportunity to comfort Shang-Chi. In fact, his words were very sinister. He was hinting to Shang-Chi that even if one of them fell sick and died, it would be over for Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi, who led hundreds of people, didn't have as much power as a battalion commander in Tang. He didn't have any strategic ideas at all. As for tactics, he was even worse. He felt that he was very lonely. Allah didn't protect him. Just like in the era of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, those who believed in Allah, other than a portion of China, were bullied like dogs by the United States. At that time, those who believed in Allah had the protection of the China government, but they weren't satisfied and always wanted more benefits. And those who weren't protected by the China government weren't protected by the Russians either. They were their own people. Therefore, those who believed in Allah said that they didn't eat pork, but in fact, they lived worse than dogs. Dogs knew how to bark when they saw strangers, but those who believed in Allah just wagged their tails and stuck out their tongues. Now, Shang-Chi had the same feeling. He felt that the God he believed in could no longer protect him. In fact, he wasn't wrong. Just like the Arab countries during that time, they were trampled under the feet of the infidels, but still had to work hard to raise their heads and give a sincere and shameless smile. Those who were not convinced and wanted to have their own dignity were all killed by the United States. The only difference was that China had always been tolerant of their beliefs and religious habits. However, those who left behind a little religious tradition with great difficulty and lived like dog shit didn't know how to be grateful. Instead, they thought that the people of China were weak and easy to bully. Therefore, if they couldn't be pitied, they should be abandoned like dog shit. If not, it would be difficult to walk the right path. If not, how could they be called moral? If they should be killed, they should be killed. If they should be beheaded, they should be beheaded. What kind of dog is it? Fighting for its master, it's hard to tame a wolf after a long time. It's better to spit than to kill. Chapter 1278. The military rations were delicious. Shang-Chi admitted to this point. He kept all the beef and mutton, and gave the pork and chicken to Lu Bo and the others. He didn't want the vegetarian dishes. Although they were vegetarian, there was actually some meat in them. The more the cannibals ate, the more upset they felt. The enemy's weapons were good because they didn't have the technology. They could only accept that they were at a disadvantage. But why was the logistics better than the enemy's? The war was truly a cowardly one. Lu Bo and the others ate happily. The military rations sounded like they were for the soldiers, but due to the distance, it wasn't easy to preserve, so it should be hard to swallow. Today, they truly felt the strength of their country. It turned out that the military rations could be made even more delicious than those in ordinary restaurants. Lu Bo slowly chewed a small piece of pickled cucumber in his mouth. It looked like an ordinary pickled cucumber, but it was marinated in shrimp oil, so it tasted fresh and delicious. He glanced at the 24 subordinates who came with him and saw that they were all eating slowly. They hadn't eaten anything decent for many days, so the food now had the taste of their homeland. The people at the border didn't get much. 3 people ate 2 portions, and the portion that they didn't get was taken by the cannibals. The 164 people once again considered themselves as Tang people, and no longer felt that they were independent existences. The 164 people whispered to each other, their intentions more or less the same. If they could return alive, they would plant a flag of the great Tang on their houses to indicate where they belonged. Like many Tang people, when they had nothing to do, they would plant the flag of the great Tang on their windows and eaves, and some of them would even draw on their walls. The military rations sent over weren't much. Even if they ate slowly, they were finished after half an hour. The cannibals weren't full, and each of them only tasted a mouthful. Thus, they turned their gazes back to the cans. Shang-Chi sucked his fingers. Just now, when he ate, there were chopsticks. He didn't know how to use them, and the people at the border also didn't know how to use them, but they still learned how to use them. After all, they were Tang people. Even if they didn't learn now, they had to learn if they survived. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing. You, come here. Shang-Chi shouted to Lu Bo. Lu Bo drank the last mouthful of soup, burped, and rubbed his stomach as he walked over. The food was enough for the soldiers, and he hadn't eaten properly for many days, so he ate until he was full. Open the can. Shang-Chi looked at the satisfied expression on Lu Bo's face. He wanted to kill the other party, but at the same time, he thought that if he was also from the Great Tang. Lu Bo burped again and picked up a can to study it. The acrostic poem was still vivid in his mind. He needed to think about how to open it. Many cans in the country did not have a long shelf life. They were made of bamboo, and the cost was low. Now they were made of iron. He had to read the instructions. Otherwise, it would be troublesome to destroy it directly. The tab. Lu Bo mumbled and stuck a finger into the tab. Thinking that something was wrong, he took it out and pressed the tab in one direction, making a small hole in the can. Then, he hooked the tab again and pulled it in the other direction. A piece of iron fell off, revealing the contents of the can. What is this? Lu Bo was stunned. He had never seen this kind of food before. Fried rice. Covered rice. Why does it smell like there are so many spices? This was not the level of the chef between the clouds and the water, right? Scallions, ginger, and garlic actually accounted for a large proportion of the ingredients. Using seasonings as supplementary ingredients? 3 of the 24 people who came with him came up and looked at the food in the can. They were also confused. One of them could not help but say, "It can't be. What are the chefs of the Zhang family and Wang family planning to do? Was it a revolt? Can this be eaten? Let me open another one. Maybe it was not packed properly when it was packed." Lu Bo took another can and opened it in the same way as before. The inside was still the same as before. Passing the can in front of Shang-Chi, Lu Bo said embarrassedly, "This may be a newly developed food. It is not mature yet. I believe that it will be adjusted after some time. It will be fine to eat it then. The chefs of the Zhang family and Wang family are probably very busy and careless. Yes. Normally, they should not have made it like this, really." The person who spoke just now promised. It seemed that the chefs of the Zhang family and Wang family had made the food like this, and they were also embarrassed. Shang-Chi put the can in front of his nose and smelled it. He nodded. "It tastes good. It is better than what we ate before we came. Call someone over and let's eat." He called someone over from the border. He was afraid that it was poisonous. If someone was poisoned to death, it would have nothing to do with him. He thought that the Miao protection team would not be covered by artillery. As hostages, Lu Bo and the other 25 people suddenly felt a sense of superiority. Pig food was actually praised. It was really sad to live a polyphagous life. No wonder many polyphagous people were willing to come to the Tang Empire in the past. They enjoyed a different life. The 25 people thought so. but no one took the initiative to try it. What if it was really poisonous? 5 people from the border were called over. They opened 3 more cans, 1 for each person, and let them eat. The 5 people held the cans and looked at them. Shang-Chi, who couldn't think of a good idea, gritted his teeth and took a can to eat. The other half of the people who didn't eat just now also opened the can as fast as they could. When it was in his mouth, Shang-Chi knew why the people who ate just now had that kind of expression. It was so delicious. Although it was cold, the food inside didn't make people feel disgusted. When it entered the stomach, there was a warm feeling, as if the whole body was full of strength. When they were full, there were only 21 cans left in the woods. Shang-Chi naturally kept the rest of the cans for himself. After a short rest, he let the hostages stand up and tie them firmly. 2 people with knives were behind each of them. They surrounded their own people and continued to move forward. After walking for a while, they saw a small river. The water was clear, and they could see the stones and small fish swimming below. The crowd cheered. There was water. Lu Bo squatted down and dipped his hands in the water. He washed his face first before drinking a mouthful. He requested Shang-Chi, "Let us take a bath and change our clothes." The 24 people who came with him looked at Shang-Chi. They were here to do business, so they naturally had to bring things. Everyone brought an extra set of clothes and toiletries. They were confiscated before, but Lu Bo went to curry favor with the great Tang trader and was rewarded back. They hadn't been used since. The main reason was that many people were not used to wearing clothes and using other toiletries was also unfamiliar. Shang-Chi nodded and asked, "There's no poison in the water. How much poison is in the flowing water?" "Don't worry." Lu Bo revealed a flattering smile and shamelessly tried to curry favor with the great Tang. He did this to survive and create opportunities for the seedling protection team. However, Wang Miao, who was watching from afar, pursed his lips tightly. He had already received news from the country and understood Lu Bo's family situation. He was a pretty good businessman. He had 2 wives and 7 children. His parents were still alive, and he was still supporting the parents of 2 of his wives. The grandfather of one of his wives was still alive, and he was as respectful as he was to his own grandfather. His family had large courtyards in the capital, Hangzhou, Suzhou, Idyll, and Luoyang. He was smart since young, and he took over the family business at the age of 16. He got along well with the local officials. He had no criminal record and never gave money to the local schools. However, he opened a small book printing company that specialized in printing books for children and gave them out free of charge. 5 years ago, he found that this business route was more profitable, so he brought people here to do business. His family mainly dealt in leather, and later on, they added medicinal herbs and sold them to the clinic. He could be considered a pretty wealthy businessman and lived a good life. His family was harmonious, and he was kind to others. He didn't take loans from banks, and his family had a lot of cash. However, he was willing to give the clinic credit for medicinal herbs. He was also talented. He was proficient in 6 foreign languages and had good calligraphy skills. He also liked painting and often invited scholars to hold poetry gatherings. He was very good to his employees and had a relatively high charisma. Usually, he was neither servile nor overbearing when he met the officials, but now, he was like a dog trying to please its owner. Wang Miao felt very uncomfortable. He felt that he didn't do a good job. Every smile of Lu Bo's was like a knife stabbing into his chest. He picked up the sniper rifle beside him and shot down the other party's leader, but he didn't dare to do so. After threatening the other party, he actually felt a little guilty. Fortunately, he found that the other party was illiterate. Not only did they not recognize the great Tang's words, but they also didn't recognize their own words. The school was very important and could play a life-saving role at a critical moment. Wang Miao looked and estimated the time it would take for the people here to meet up with the main forces. He also estimated the time when he would release the spiked cans. He decided not to shoot at the other party during this process. At most, he would shoot at the sky to slow down the troops. If he killed one of the other party and the other party retaliated by killing one of his own people, should he open fire or not? Putting away his binoculars, Wang Miao gritted his teeth and said, "If only I knew what the other party's leader was thinking. Just wait, just wait. You'll all cry." The speed of the many people was just as Wang Miao had expected. They slowed down and placed a portion of the hostages outside, constantly changing their positions. The other people hid behind the hostages and mixed in with the rest of the hostages so that the great Tang army wouldn't shoot at the rat for fear of breaking the vases. As night fell, the many people were exhausted. None of them were killed during the day, but the psychological pressure was even greater. They knew that there were countless eyes watching them and looking for an opportunity to kill them. They were nervous when they were walking during the day, and they didn't dare to relax at night. The torches and bonfires burned, making crackling sounds from time to time. Every time there was a crackling sound, it made people worried that it was the sound of gunshots. When it was time for dinner, the many people began to miss the days in the day. They ate canned food in the day, and now they had to eat the stir-fried barley at night. It was really hard to swallow. Without so many seasonings and delicious salted vegetables, they could only force themselves to swallow. Tonight, the hostages didn't have any food. The many people felt that they had eaten a lot at noon and could starve a little. It seemed like they had prepared one for each of the hostages. However, there were only 200 canned food. It definitely wasn't enough for the many people. Shang-Chi didn't need to look to know that the food was filled with pork. It was specially prepared for the hostages. The 200 canned food was for his side. "Wake them up and let them eat. If they don't let me sleep well, I won't let them sleep well either," Shang-Chi ordered. Lu Bo and the others were woken up. They came out of the tent in a daze and saw the food under the light of the torch. They were all very happy. There was food to eat, but the timing was too good. Why did it only arrive in the middle of the night? "General Shang-Chi, thank you, thank you. Can I eat?" Lu Bo ran to Shang-Chi and bowed repeatedly. "Eat, eat and sleep well. We have to hurry tomorrow." Shang-Chi didn't want them to eat, but he was worried that it would affect their stamina. He could only agree gloomily. He also picked up a can and was about to eat when he suddenly stopped and passed it to Lu Bo. "I'll add a can for you. You eat first." "Yes, yes." Lu Bo took it and started to eat. He knew that the many people wanted him to test the poison. They were really cautious. While eating, he looked at the words on the can. It was written in a different style. It said, "Delivering food in the middle of the night. Because of the long journey, it is difficult to transport. Peacefully wait for the clouds to disperse. Like the sun, like before." After seeing the words, Lu Bo's legs trembled. He knew that the time to act was 3 days later. The limerick on the can wasn't written clearly, but he knew. Because he remembered that before he came here, he held a poetry party. Someone wrote a poem and everyone commented. When it was his turn, he said, "Like the sun, like the moon rising." Looking at the words and reading the shape, it was a good poem. Then, today's limerick said that food was delivered in the middle of the night, followed by, "like the sun, like before." It was telling him the time to act. Lu Bo ate and sighed in his heart. It was too amazing. In just one day, they found out everything and used it to send a message on the can. How much resources did Xiao Bao and Cuckoo mobilize? Otherwise, it would be impossible to find out so clearly. 3 days, there were still 3 days. He had to hold on. If he didn't put Shang-Chi in a cage by then, his name would be written upside down. No, it would be written horizontally. Shang-Chi watched Lu Bo eat and continued to wait. He wanted to find a few more people to test the poison, but he didn't want to. If there was no poison, his people would eat less. Chapter 1279. When he returned to the tent, Lu Bo was still in a state of excitement. He said to his 24 subordinates, eat, and rest well. Do your best for General Shang-Chi. His subordinates knew what he meant. Why would they do anything for Shang-Chi? One of them wrote on the ground, "Are you going to do it? Don't ask. Don't affect your mood and be detected." Lu Bo also wrote. The 24 nodded and began to fill the ration with water. Lu Bo had not filled his own ration yet. He had just eaten canned food. Today's canned food tasted a little bitter, but it did not make him feel uncomfortable. The only thing he felt was that he was a little confused, probably because he was too nervous, and also because he had woken up in the middle of the night. Lu Bo secretly swore that when he returned to China, he would do his job well. He would listen to the imperial court and Xiao Bao and be a proper businessman. He would not cheat or harm others. It was not only because of his attachment to his motherland, but also because he had to remember what happened today. Since they could find out his identity and communicate with him to save him in a day, if he made a mistake, they could also find out and deal with him in a day. It was no wonder that the top businessmen in the list were so reliable. After the war, they worked together to stabilize the domestic product prices. It was probably because they knew more about Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. It was too scary. Efficiency, this was efficiency. When Xiao Bao and Cuckoo became serious and started to mobilize resources, the result would be the same as now. It smells like medicine. One of the people eating the ration was really hungry. As soon as the ration was heated, he could not wait to open it. The strong smell of medicine wafted into the tent. When the others heard his voice, they turned to look and sniffed. Sure enough, there was medicine. There was really medicine. Let me see. Jujube, wolfberry, angelica, rehmannia, and some slices are ginseng. The meat dish is braised pork ribs, and the vegetarian dish is braised shrimps with chives. There are no salted vegetables today. Another person recognized many herbs and immediately read them out loud. Mine is the same. Mine too. Looks like today's meal is the same. That's right. The others opened their own rations and found that the dishes were not as messy as last time. They were all the same things. Lu Bo took a look and nodded. Start giving us nourishment and let us nourish our bodies. What is soup? Let me take a sip and see. It's delicious. It's not soup, it's porridge. Rock sugar, hay, and mung bean porridge. I know. They're afraid that we'll get heatstroke, but they're also worried that we'll be too nourishing after eating this dish. They've put in a lot of effort to adjust us with mild porridge. The person who spoke at the beginning sighed. Shang-Chi stood outside the tent. The other hostages did not have tents. Only Lu Bo and 25 people were squeezed into one tent. The other hostages rested in the open with ropes tied to their bodies. When he heard the words of the real Tang in the tent, his lips twitched, but then he helplessly shook his head. He lowered his head and looked at the can in his hand. He sighed, opened it, and ate it with his hands. The people following him also heard the voices in the tent. Although some of them understood the great Tang language and couldn't speak it properly, they could still understand it. All of them swallowed their saliva. They really wanted to eat it. What kind of pork couldn't they eat? It didn't smell any worse than beef and mutton. Moreover, They felt that the pork was even more delicious when it was made by someone else. He didn't understand why the church's teachings forbade him from eating pigs. If he secretly ate some, eat the can. Don't think too much. Shang-Chi was the first to be tempted. He was also thinking about how he could secretly eat the pork. Seeing the expressions of his subordinates, how could he not know what they were thinking? He softly warned them. It's a little bitter. A guard ate 2 mouthfuls of the food in the can and smacked his lips as he spoke. Eat it. It won't kill you. You smell their military rations. It's also bitter. They probably put the leftover seasoning in the military rations into the can. Shang-Chi also felt that today's can was bitter. However, when he smelled the smell drifting over, he found that it was not much different from the bitter taste. He believed that the great Tang people had used leftover seasoning in the cans for them. Fortunately, there was no smell of pork. However, there was one point that was acceptable. The few guards who were eating the can nodded. It was fine if it was bitter. It didn't affect the taste. It was still delicious. Lu Bo could hear their conversation. He felt that things weren't so simple. As for the leftover seasoning in the can, what a joke. What kind of leftover seasoning was bitter? The bitterness of the braised pork ribs was because of the sugar color and the ginseng. Why would they put ginseng in the can? Although ginseng was a man-made product of the Zhang family and Wang family, it could also be used to treat diseases. If it wasn't used to save lives, it would be the same as the wild ginseng. At most, it would be used to increase the quantity of the medicine. Why would such a good thing be used as leftover seasoning? You guys think too highly of yourselves. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo can't wait to deal with you guys personally. Why would they use ginseng and specially fry it with sugar color? Did they really think that the sugar color was just a simple color? Wouldn't it be better to use soy sauce? The caramel itself was a medicine. There's a problem. There's a problem with the food today. What's wrong? Lu Bo was more and more certain of his guess. Normally, the handheld canned food couldn't be bitter. On the morning of the 3rd day, Lu Bo carefully tasted the canned food and found that the amount in the canned food had been increased. This meant that he would be even more addicted. When the time came, he would have to quit. It was really painful. That was a drug addiction. Fine, he would have to be strong when the time came. Everything was for Tang. Chapter 1280. The canned food was getting more and more fragrant, and the people who had eaten it were looking forward to the next meal. After eating it, they would become more energetic. On the 3rd night, after Lu Bo finished the canned food, he went back to the tent to eat with his subordinates. He didn't eat the food immediately, but used chopsticks to distribute it to his subordinates. Then, he tried not to make any sound of vomiting and vomited out more than half of the canned food. He didn't dare to vomit all out because he was afraid that it would affect his mental state. He knew that he was starting to like the feeling of being addicted to drugs. If he vomited all of it, he might become depressed. The 24 people watched their boss vomit and felt that something was wrong. Was their boss not feeling well? Was it poisonous? When Lu Bo vomited the food into the packaging of the military beam, the subordinate closest to him began to write on the ground, "What's wrong?" Lu Bo followed and wrote, "Don't make a sound. It's okay. Leave some porridge for me." His subordinate nodded and began to praise the military food to cover his writing. "It's poisonous, addictive poison. It's probably the poppy reported in the newspaper. Don't eat too much tonight. Get ready." After Lu Bo finished writing, he nodded solemnly to his subordinates. The 24 people took a deep breath almost at the same time and then held the air in their lungs. Their faces were full of nervousness. "Can you quit?" a subordinate wrote worriedly. "You have to quit even if you can't," Lu Bo wrote. The 24 people nodded and no longer made any other unnecessary movements. They began to eat their own military food. They didn't feel disgusted at all when they saw their boss vomit. Now was a moment of life and death, and all thoughts that shouldn't be had should be abandoned. At the same time, they were very clear about what the poppy was. It had been reported more than once in the newspaper, introducing the shape of the poppy. There were specially carved pictures and colored pigments separately. When the poppy flower bloomed, it was very beautiful. It was red, pink, and white. If one looked at it in the middle, it would make people feel happy. The newspaper also introduced how poppy was made into opium paste. It was the white paste that appeared when the head was destroyed. It was simple to boil. The biggest use was to be used in medicine, so if someone wanted to plant it, they could plant it, but they were not allowed to eat it themselves. After planting and looking at the flowers, they had to send it to the medical center, and the medical center would use it to make medicine. If they found that they ate it themselves, they would be killed. If they found that they put it in food for others to eat and cause others to become addicted, they would be killed. The 24 of them knew that the boss had planted quite a lot of them. They looked very beautiful when they bloomed, especially the gourd, which looked very interesting. However, they didn't eat it. Although it could be used as medicine, it was free of charge to see a doctor. Even if they didn't feel well, they would go to the clinic instead of eating it in private in order to save money. The newspaper even wrote about the adverse effects of addiction after eating it. It warned the people of the Great Tang that in order to have a healthy body to earn more money for their family, in order to have a healthy body to create more wealth for their country, and in order to make their country richer and stronger, they should not try to eat that thing. Otherwise, they would be irresponsible to the Great Tang, irresponsible to their family, and betraying their country. Out of the 24 people, no one had ever eaten it. Even if they did plant it, they would just look at the flowers. Then, they would bring it to the medical center and let the medical center make it into medicine to treat diseases. The medical center would not give them a single copper coin, so they could not sell it. Since it was reported in the newspaper, they were clear about the situation their boss was in. He was addicted, and it would take a lot of effort to kick it. Therefore, when they looked at their boss, their eyes were filled with encouragement. Lu Bo glared at them and thought, "I'm not going to die, so why are you so sad?" The supper was more unbearable. "I don't know if I'll faint." At the same time, he glanced at the tent. Because the light outside was brighter than inside the tent, when looking from a distance, the shadows of the people outside would fall on the tent. Only when they were close could they see the shadows of the people inside the tent, and it was very blurry. Lu Bo felt sad for the people who ate more food. The result of having no knowledge. If you all went to school when you were young, and if your school taught you some words and knowledge of the Great Tang, how could you fall into the trap so easily? Why did I have to print books for the children in school to read? This was the power of knowledge. Shang-Chi, who was eating happily outside, did not know that the person who tested the poison was cursing them in the tent. He only felt that the canned food today was even more satisfying. After eating it, from top to bottom, from inside to outside, there was not a single place where he felt uncomfortable. Although the sky was gloomy tonight, breathing after eating the canned food was very pleasant. Listening to the voices coming from the tent from time to time, his mouth revealed a smile, and his whole body was relaxed. Shang-Chi had already made a decision. As long as he could meet up with the rest of the troops, he would definitely keep the person called Lu Bo. This person knew a lot, could speak both languages, and could read both languages. If he kept him by his side, maybe his status would be improved. When he had more power, he could give Lu Bo more benefits. As for the reason, of course, it was because Lu Bo could help them calculate and come up with ideas. Once again, it proved the importance of knowledge. Even if you were a prisoner, even if you were a hostage, as long as you could prove that you were good at what you had learned, your survival environment and chances of survival would be far greater than those who were inferior to you. The people at the junction did not enjoy the treatment of tents. When it was sunny, it was fine. At most, there would be mosquito harassment. If it was raining, it would be very cold at night. They could only squeeze together. It was very difficult to go to the toilet. They had to wake others up together and tie each other up. Today, the moon was covered by dark clouds. The wind was strong, and the night was cold. Moreover, the humidity was heavy. They did not sleep well. If one person moved, the person tied up nearby would wake up. They did not know why, but it was cold and energetic tonight. It seemed that they had become excited after eating the military rations. When people were excited, they would always think about things that they should not think about. Now, some people felt that the opportunity had come. Bait the rope and we can run out. The soldiers who saved us must be around. If we meet them, we will live. The person who was shouted at was not willing to give up and said excitedly, "What about the people in the tent? You go and call them. They are surrounded by the other tents. They woke up the people who eat more. They will kill people." The elder whispered, "Ignore them. Let's run out first." The young man had a good plan. The elder sneered. "They are real people of the great Tang. We don't have a household registration yet. If we run out at the cost of exposing them, how will the soldiers of the great Tang treat us? If one of them dies, we will all die with them." The people nearby who heard the commotion nodded. Did the great Tang send elite soldiers to kill their own people? Who knew who was close and who was distant? "We are also people of the great Tang." The young man muttered. "Let's talk about it after we are saved. When we are registered, we will have to listen to the words of the great Tang Emperor. There is also that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. In the past 2 days, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are very powerful. The people who came back were sent by them. They are the most powerful team that the great Tang can send. Other than here, only the great Tang Emperor has them. Everyone, don't move. Wait and trust them." Even the most powerful great Tang soldiers forced the people of the great Tang to take us as hostages. How can the most powerful people be weak? The elder threatened and boosted the confidence of the people on his side. He was afraid that some of them would be impulsive and kill Lu Bo. If his own people were exposed, he would kill them too. Some people who were ready to make a move spread the news to each other, but all of them restrained themselves. They didn't want to be killed by the great Tang soldiers after running out. At night, the people of the great Tang changed shifts every 2 hours. In the past, it was 4 hours. Later on, it was 3 hours. Now, it was 1 hour. They were worried that if they stood for too long, it would give the Tang army a chance to attack them when they were tired. After eating, it would be past midnight. So, if they stood for 2 hours, it would be past midnight. Now, those who had just been replaced had to stand until midnight. In other words, it was around 3 o'clock. Midnight was half past 3 o'clock. If it was half past 4 o'clock, it was half past 4 o'clock. Half past 3 o'clock was the wee hours of the morning. Even the people who sold breakfast were not willing to get up. Generally, they would wait until 4 o'clock before getting up to prepare. When they finished setting up their stalls and started making breakfast, it would be around 5 o'clock. Just as they were cursing in their hearts, countless black shadows suddenly appeared under the moonlight after the dark clouds had just dispersed. They were stunned for a moment, and in a moment of joy, a figure appeared beside the person at the sentry post closest to them. They didn't know how the figure moved, but the figure stopped and then moved. They watched as the person gently placed the duogan on the sentry post on the ground. Then, there was the sound of popping, and soon, everything returned to normal. Before they could think about it, several large patches of light suddenly shone down from the sky. They could not help but look up and see 4 large objects floating in the sky. The light was coming from those 4 objects. Then, more small beams of light shone from the figures. There was not a single gunshot, not a single shout. Only someone came to help them cut the ropes. Less than 7 minutes later, they heard someone speak. Reporting, all the enemies are under control. All the sentry posts have been killed. Requesting action. Action. Don't move. Don't move. Clap, clap. Put your hands on your head and lie on the ground. A cacophony of voices began to appear, and all the voices were of the Great Tang and even some local dialects of the Great Tang. Shouts, footsteps, and gunshots mixed together. The beams of light from the objects flying in the sky swept back and forth. Another 7 minutes later, the noise died down again. The Great Tang, who were still sleepy, were escorted out one by one and gathered in the open space of the camp with guns pointed at them. When the Great Tang saw that there were more of them, there was a slight commotion. A series of gunshots rang out. No Great Tang was killed, but everyone became obedient. They knew that the thing that was making the continuous sounds was a machine gun. The people at the border were still in a daze. They did not know how the battle had started or what was going on in the tent. In any case, all the Great Tang were under control and the sentry had been killed. The ropes binding them had been cut, but they did not say anything. They just stood there and watched. Everything they saw was full of wonder, especially in the sky. What was flying? The attack speed was too fast. They thought that there would be a fierce battle. After all, there were nearly 600 Great Tang. How could they be caught in such a short time? Area A5 is safe. Area A6 is safe. Area B1 is safe. One voice after another reported that they were safe. Gather the troops. The medical team is landing. Another voice sounded. The people on the objects flying in the sky started to slide down the ropes quickly. Every time, 2 people slid down, one holding the other. The speed of the fall was very fast. When they were about to hit the ground, they suddenly slowed down and landed on the ground. Lu Bo and the other 25 people walked out of the tent and stood in the open space outside. Someone went up and saluted. This is Wang Miao, the commander of the Vigorous Protection Team, codenamed Wu Yi. I'm here to report that you are safe. After that, the person who called himself Wang Miao shook Lu Bo's hand and said, "It's been hard on you guys recently." Lu Bo's tears flowed out. He took a deep breath and hugged Wang Miao. His voice was muffled as he said, "It's not hard, it's not hard. We didn't. You guys are the ones who suffered. We saw it all and remembered it in our hearts. If we didn't suffer this time, we wouldn't know how much Tang Dynasty cares for us. Thank you. Let's go. We'll check your body first. Especially you ate a lot of opium cream. We'll inject glucose into your vein first to clean it up. We'll observe you in the future to see how addicted you are." Wang Miao patted Lu Bo's back and smiled. Lu Bo also smiled. "I'm fine. I'm satisfied with eating some. I threw up the last supper yesterday. Otherwise, I would be like them, all tired and sleepy after being captured. Yes, we put in a large amount of sleeping pills yesterday. There were more than 50 people who were still sleeping. They didn't wake up even when they were dragged out. Lu Bo is really smart. He guessed our plan. Wang Miao put his hand on Lu Bo's shoulder and walked to the front. Immediately, the medical staff gave him an 4 drip. There was only glucose in it. The main thing was that Lu Bo had been tortured for the past 3 days and had to eat everything. There were also people who came to check his blood pressure and heartbeat. There were even people who came to disinfect his fingers and take blood for a simple blood sugar test. If there was a lack of glucose, they would need to replenish it. The first to be checked was naturally Lu Bo and the others. The people living at the border had to wait. There were only 9 medical staff in total, and all of them had a red cross on them. It was the international medical symbol. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had given it according to their habits. Actually, it didn't have to be a cross, it could also be a symbol. What's a code name for Wui? It's not as good as Lei Ting. The person who wanted to run first asked curiously. He was still awake. Lu Bo replied, Chiue Wui. I share the same robes with you. Wang Yuxing, repair my spear. I share the same hatred. Chiue Wui. I share the same lake. Wang Yuxing, repair my spear and halberd. I work with you. Chiue Wui. I share the same robes with you. Wang Yuxing, repair my armor and soldiers. I walk with you. What does that mean? This person was even more confused. When you have time, you'll know when you read the book. It's a request for battle, and also a poem that expresses our unity, Lu Bo replied naturally. Lu Dongjia is indeed knowledgeable. Just by hearing a code name, you know what we mean. Alright, Lu Dongjia, rest first. Others, come and check. After that, take a hot bath. Someone is boiling water for you. He said, if I ever do anything wrong to the Tang Empire in the future, I will be struck by lightning. You are indeed the strongest, from the depths of your soul. I will publicize this matter and let all the people of the Tang Empire know what is behind them. What I want to ask is, how much resources did you guys use to rescue us? My family has some money, and I want to compensate you guys. I can't let you guys spend too much. There's no need. You've already paid the taxes, so it's only right. Wang Miao didn't intend to ask for money. Could it be that he wouldn't rescue them if they didn't have money? That's not what I mean. I won't give you money. I just want to ask how much manpower and resources you guys use so that I can have an idea. Lu Bo changed his way of asking. He knew that he had to do more, or his conscience wouldn't be at ease. We didn't use much. We just sent a message back. Then, we sent someone to ask the merchants who maintained the trade route and roughly described what you looked like. Then, they said who you were. After that, it was easy. We directly went to your house and asked about you. Then, we looked for the people who were in contact with you. We got everything out of them. Wang Miao replied. So they'll tell you the moment you ask. What do you think? We'll prove that we're subordinates of Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Oh. That's right. I'll tell you if you ask me. Everyone in Great Tang is your informant. Lu Bo understood. The news of the successful rescue was quickly sent back to Idyll. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't just receive news from this place. In the past few days, they had successfully rescued 2 other places, and the last place was already under operation. They believed that there would be news soon because those people had already been drugged. Chapter 1281. When the duo eaters who were on a hostage mission were killed, the people living at the border of various places also began to migrate long distances. They had to give up their original places of residence and move to the east. At the same time, they had to join the Great Tang. Once the border was no longer dangerous, they could come back if they wanted to. If they didn't want to, they could go anywhere in the Great Tang. They could even settle down in Sanshui County as long as they could find a suitable job and buy a house in Sanshui County. For a period of time, only the Great Tang soldiers would be left at the border. There would be no other people. This was a loss for the Great Tang, but it was also a gain. The loss was the local products, while the gain was a group of people who had no concept of country. The domestic construction required a large number of people. When the children were still young and their productivity was low, the handicraft industry was the best supplement and could be developed in a more labor-intensive way. Zhang Xiaobao didn't care about this. It seemed that the local products were missing, but that location could be left as a backup plan. For the time being, they had to solve the problem of population flow. The population of the cities with convenient water, land, road, and railway transportation is clearly increasing. This puts a certain amount of pressure on the lives of the locals. We have to find a way to adjust. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the report sent today and said to Wang Wan, who had just finished studying the military map. Wang Wan rubbed her temples. When she was looking at the map just now, she had to analyze it while looking at it. It was tiring. Not only did she have to formulate strategic goals that could change at any time according to the situation on the battlefield, she also had to summarize history and find suitable battle tactics. As the army on the three fronts slowly advanced, the problem of adapting to the environment was placed in front of them. There was also the various terrains, where in history, who won with a small number of people, how they fought, and what were the relevant factors. She had to put them into the current Great Tang army. Otherwise, it would be easy to be schemed against by the enemy. The death of a large number of soldiers would make their families very sad. The purpose of war was to gain benefits, not sacrifice. The more she thought about it, the more her head hurt. It looked like a small-scale battle tactic, but when countless tactical objectives were completed, the commander would discover that there were actually new strategic objectives that could be achieved. This was not something that could be changed by one's will. Even the most outstanding strategist would not be able to predict the final outcome from the beginning. Thus, Wang Wan had several marching routes in her mind. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that the path ahead was foggy. Zhang Xiaobao's voice pulled her out of the fog. Wang Wan sighed softly and asked, "Don't tell me you want to have different household registers in different places. When we arrive in other cities, we are not allowed to buy a house, and we are also deprived of benefits. At the same time, even the schools that our children attend are restricted." Zhang Xiaobao saw that Wang Wan was no longer worried about strategy and tactics. He smiled and said, "I'm not stupid. We can't lose the people's hearts that we worked so hard to gather so easily. What happened before was the result of internal strife between factions. At the same time, there was also the problem of the population demand for the overall economic development plan of the country. In fact, there were many cases in history where a large number of people migrated, especially when there was a disaster. The people who fled to other places caused a lot of trouble for the local people. She had already realized that Xiao Bao suddenly mentioned this information not because there was no way to solve the problem, but because he deliberately said it to her so that she would be able to escape from the troubles of the previous strategic arrangements. With a man like this accompanying her, she would be happy for the rest of her life. Zhang Xiaobao adjusted his sitting position to make Wang Wan more comfortable and said, "Actually, the main reason for a large number of people to gather in places with convenient transportation is that there can be more profits from the circulation of goods and port processing. With more profits, the wages will also be higher. So what should we do to make the wages in other places higher? The simplest way is to use policies to reduce taxes and other expenses in other places, and at the same time, to build infrastructure. It involves the word money. Right now, we have free medical care, free education, infant support benefits, employment training benefits, elderly protection benefits, and direct state compensation benefits in disaster areas. In addition to the previous large number of low-interest and interest-free loan benefits, we don't have much money to do other things. You mean to rely on luxury goods to make money, and then use it to implement policies and infrastructure in other places? Wang Wan asked cooperatively. Yes, head. There is a very important problem in the process of the floating population gathering in key cities, and that is the concentration of capital. The concentration of capital in one area is an empty statement, but the real concentration is in the hands of businessmen. Businessmen who make a lot of money will have a high tax rate, but they still have too much money that they can't use. Money is just a number, and behind it represents the support of money. Unless I cause a large amount of inflation, they won't be able to use the corresponding resources if they don't spend money. When they have money, I give them 3 choices. One is to deposit it in a bank, and they will earn interest. Then, I will use the bank to lend money, and at the same time, maintain the growth rate of inflation at the deposit interest rate, right? Zhang Xiaobao asked Wang Wan. Wang Wan had a smile on her face. Yes, the deposit in the bank is actually not the appreciation of money, but the preservation of value. Many people don't understand, and they always feel that they have too much money in their hands. In the end, when they buy things, the price of things will also increase. If the bank is really used to increase the value of depositors, then when the bank lends out, it will require more interest. In the end, the original interest of the deposit currency will actually depreciate. Money doesn't appear out of thin air, and the amount of money that appears is related to productivity. The only advantage is that this part of the money from the bank can be used to support production technology, and it can increase the basic raw materials of goods. The people who deposit their money in the bank get a higher level of enjoyment, and not an absolute increase in money. The higher level of enjoyment includes the lowering of the price of new products and certain low-end goods in certain aspects. For example, there will be a radio in the future. Another example is that the yield of cabbage per moo will increase, and the price will be lower. But when the people measure the money in their hands, they don't think about it like that. They think about whether the goods that are in the middle of society are cheaper. Is it cheaper? No. If it is really cheaper, it means that this kind of goods is no longer in the middle of society. It has been reduced to the status of cabbage. Unfortunately, there are too few people who can understand this. The better a country could control polarization, the more stable the political and economic system of that country would be. Zhang Xiaobao feels that there is still a long way to go. Because of polarization, in addition to the corruption of officials and economic loopholes, there is also the existence of individuals in society. People are smart. If they can make money, they will naturally have money. If they make more money, it is unreasonable to collect more taxes from others. Why? But there is no other way. After all, you live in a group. Your income comes from the group, and your safety comes from the group. Therefore, Zhang Xiaobao can only control polarization through other means, and not eliminate it. If polarization is really eliminated, then the whole society will lose the motivation to move forward. Everyone will not work hard. No matter how hard they work, in the end, they will get the same result as others. Who is stupid? Zhang Xiaobao now wants to discuss this problem with Wang Wan. There are 2 other ways. One way is to enjoy. We can make more luxury goods and sell them. The profit of luxury goods has always been much higher than the proportion of goods that people enjoy. It is almost hundreds or thousands of times higher. Among 100 people, if you enjoy a radio and others don't, then you will definitely pay more than 100 times the cost of the radio. You may have to pay 1,000 times or 10,000 times the cost. If they enjoy it, we will have money. We will use this money to do what we said before. The third way is to guide the rich to underdeveloped areas, which are inconvenient and have low production capacity. We will provide them with preferential policies. They can build their own roads, or we can build the roads. It is the same. If we build the roads, they will have to pay in other aspects. If they build the roads, they will get more policies. I hope that they will choose to build their own infrastructure. We will turn the money used to build the roads into loans to them. At the same time, we will increase their policy benefits. The gains and losses are the same. There is not much difference. The difference is that this kind of company has a social responsibility and confidence in self-development. I will pay attention to it and look for them if there is something good in the future. Of course, there are policy benefits and policy requirements. That is, when their investment and output ratio is the same as the ratio of the same industry and the same strength of businessmen in prosperous cities, they must pay the same wages as the prosperous cities. In this way, everyone will not have to go to the key cities to carry out a one-way labor flow. I should have killed all the people in your city's civil affairs department back then. They lost a talent. Wang Wan said with a smile. I have never regretted the path I have taken. If I had to choose again, I would still want to do that. Because that way, I will still meet you. Disgusting. You have a clever mouth. Wang Wan lightly punched Zhang Xiaobao. What if they don't follow your train of thought and deliberately oppose you? I am saying what if. The truth is that they will listen to you. Especially after the news of you traveling thousands of miles to rescue them is exposed in the newspapers. Everyone will be more patriotic. If I have to say what if, it is that if they don't agree, I will use my own money to build non-key cities. In the end, I will use cheap products to attack their profits. Our business is expanding very slowly now because we want to give them more space to develop. It is not because I don't have the ability to expand. I have not made any plans to attack the domestic economy because I promised you. At the same time, it is because I love this nation. It does not mean that I am afraid of them. If they force me into a corner, I will teach them a lesson. You must know that the technology and the banking system are in my hands. Why did we withdraw from the shares of Great Tang Bank? We held the shares, and Li Longji did not dare to trust us. There would be other shareholders who would come in and criticize us. I withdrew, but I am in control. Whoever controls the banking system controls the entire society. Zhang Xiaobao's tone was very calm when he said this, but Wang Wan could hear a sense of absolute arrogance. She admitted that Zhang Xiaobao had this ability. Otherwise, the order back then would not have been just to capture and not kill. Wang Wan was very happy when she thought about how she had captured such a person. She said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Don't be anxious. When you invade, let them take over the domestic economy. They are very obedient. If someone really dares to disobey, I will directly publish an article in the newspaper, saying that a certain corporation has hurt me and Xiaobao too much. In the future, when they are in danger outside, I will no longer help them and let the imperial court send troops. That way, their corporation will not need to face any danger outside. The other businessmen in the country will kill them. When the Meteor Battle Squad returns successfully, our prestige will be even higher. Rescue, revenge, regardless of the distance, regardless of the cost. I believe that this is what every citizen in every country wants to see the most. That's right. If the country could treat me like this back then, Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's go meet Huang Yaoben. Previously, I gave him some ideas as a deity. Why did he not look for a deity and insist on looking for us? Would a deity lie to him? Seeing that Wang Wan was happy, Zhang Xiaobao remembered that Huang Yaoben had come to meet him and Wang Wan today. Previously, when they were eating the barbecue, he gave Huang Yaoben an idea at the last moment. He told them how to earn money and also help the country develop. After settling them down, Huang Yaoben could have them do simple work, manual labor, and low-skilled manual work. When they gradually adapted to life and had more contact with the locals, they would be dispersed through the second plan. The second plan was a part of the logistics industry, the distribution of goods. Just the distribution of goods would reduce the risks of the transportation process. It was suitable for newcomers. At the same time, they would first interact with the authorities and learn from them. The scale of the distribution of goods would be set up and they would start to expand outwards. During the expansion process, a portion of the people who came from the border would follow the branches out. After that, they would expand and split up again. They could not let the people who came from the border stay together. Otherwise, it would form a situation of clumping together in a small area. Once a person had some friction with the local people, it would cause a lot of harm. This was how things were. One of the many links would link the other aspects together. Huang Yaoben did not know how big Zhang Xiaobao's plan was. He only thought that if he did well, his status in the family would rise, and he would earn a lot of money. He would also help his country, Great Tang. Thus, he was filled with confidence. He shook the proposal in his hand and asked, "Xiaobao, are you really not going to take a look? What if there is something wrong with it? I believe in you. I believe that you will definitely arrange everything properly. You are a rare talent. Otherwise, the gods would not have looked for you." Zhang Xiaobao patted Huang Yaoben's shoulder and encouraged him. Thank you, thank you. Xiaobao, don't worry. I promise that I will not embarrass you. When they come, I will get them to get a haircut. Anyway, it can still grow after a haircut. I will arrange it immediately." Huang Yaoben was filled with pride. What was there to be afraid of? With the guidance of the gods and Xiaobao's support, there was nothing to be afraid of. With that, he turned around to leave. Wait a moment. Zhang Xiaobao suddenly thought of something. After calling out to Huang Yaoben, he continued to look at the sky. The clouds in the sky were blown back and forth by the wind. Occasionally, there would be a few birds accompanying them. They were not egrets, but they still gave off a serene and leisurely feeling. Wang Wan leaned over and gestured for Huang Yaoben to be silent. She did not want Huang Yaoben to disturb Xiaobao. Wang Wan knew that Xiaobao had suddenly thought of something else. As for what it was, she would have to wait for Xiaobao to figure it out. After that, it would probably be another series of arrangements. She liked to see Xiaobao's expression the most. No matter from which angle she looked at it, she felt that Xiaobao was full of charm. Every time this happened, it was the time to test a person's talent. To think of a series of problems in a short period of time and then work together to make overall arrangements was not something that anyone could do. She felt that the most interesting thing was that, when this man of hers arranged the economic arrangements, it was like a plug-and-play port on a computer. In a situation where there was no additional hardware or software connected to the system could operate normally. If there was a sudden problem that required the installation of hardware and software, the original system would not be disrupted. In other words, the system was not affected by any external factors during the process of operation. It was very stable and had strong compatibility. It was hard to figure out why and how it was done. Huang Yaoben looked at Wang Wan and waited with her. After a while, Zhang Xiaobao came back to his senses and said to Huang Yaoben, "The sky is really blue. It's so blue that it makes one's heart beat." Looking at it, one feels tranquil. Even if there are floating clouds, one's heart will not move. Then, should it move or not? Huang Yaoben was very depressed. After looking at the sky, Xiao Bao actually said that there was no place to spend his time on this kind of thing. Relative silence, absolute movement. Whether it moves or not, it depends on the heart. Zhang Xiaobao replied. Huang Yaoben nodded helplessly. If that's the case, then, what should I do? Move, dance with the white clouds, and accompany the blue sky. Xiao Bao, you're talking about your family's big eagle, water cloud, right? I can't fly up there. I can't fly up there either. Let's get down to business. Wang Wan was not willing. Why were they talking in riddles? She still had to cook for Xiao Bei and the others. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said, "You're too engrossed. Actually, the sky is really blue. Okay, I'll tell you. Southwest of Yi Province's main river, there's a swamp. Further west, there's a wasteland." Is there? There's a swamp, but I've never seen a wasteland. Huang Yaoben thought about the terrain, but it seemed that he had never seen one before. Could it be that he did not know enough about his hometown? That's possible. You haven't seen a wasteland, but have you seen a barren mountain? Zhang Xiaobao asked. Huang Yaoben nodded. I know. What do you want to do? Flatten the mountain and fill in the swamp. Zhang Xiaobao said. What's the use? We'll need a lot of manpower. Huang Yaoben was not stupid. He immediately thought of the amount of work. A few small hills did not look high, but if he really dug them up, there would be a lot of soil. Listen to me. When the time comes, you do it first. Remember to clean up. Collect all the feces. I'll have someone build a methane tank for you. Zhang Xiaobao did not explain too much to Huang Yaoben. He hoped that Huang Yaoben would be able to figure it out himself. Huang Yaoben was very obedient. He turned around and left with doubts in his heart. His mind was already beginning to ponder. Let's go and cook. What are we eating for lunch today? Zhang Xiaobao turned his head and asked Wang Wan. Eat white clouds. Wang Wan saw that Zhang Xiaobao had no intention of explaining to her in detail, so she said in a huff. Okay, make snow bean paste. It looks like white clouds. Xiao Bei and the others will definitely like it. Zhang Xiaobao readily agreed. He walked towards the kitchen to make snow bean paste. However, he was not going to eat it as a dish, but as a snack. Otherwise, he would not be able to eat the rice. It was too sweet. Moreover, the bean paste inside was enough to fill his stomach. Wang Wan followed him to the kitchen, thinking about what could be done by flattening the barren mountain. It seemed to be useless. It was just a waste of labor. Very quickly, the snow bean paste ingredients were prepared. Zhang Xiaobao stopped and did not make it. Because it had been left out for too long, he did not feel like eating cotton. He had to make it now. He began to prepare other dishes. Today's weather was not very hot. Although the sky was clear and there were not many clouds, there was a moderate wind. The air pressure was also not high or low. The good thing was that the relative humidity in the air was low. Generally speaking, the local situation was more humid. Zhang Xiaobao prepared to make stir-fried dishes. No matter what it was, he would stir-fry it into shreds. First, he would stir-fry garlic with meat. Then, he would stir-fry celery with meat. Third, he would stir-fry squid with chives. Fourth, he would stir-fry meat. Finally, he would make shredded potato soup. It was not easy for others to eat potatoes, but it had nothing to do with his family. Wang Wan looked and said, "It's so simple. This stir-fry meat, that stir-fry meat, don't you know how to add a little variety? And the amount seems to be too little, right? They can't eat too much today. They will go back to play after dinner. I guess they will choose to play outside. When they eat some snacks, we can suggest that they go to the river to have a look. It's the river next to the swamp, or the one on the other side of the barren mountain. They can catch fish, dig for river snails, and bring them back. I will cook for you at night." Zhang Xiaobao said as if he was talking to himself. Wang Wan thought about it. She was actually in a good mood today. Her body was also comfortable. Could it be related to the weather? Seeing that Zhang Xiaobao started to get busy, she also went to help cook. It was boiled, not steamed. Using an earthen stove to cook, the cooked rice was fragrant. There would be rice crust left at the bottom. It was just right to eat the various shredded pieces. After a while, the 4 dishes were ready. He asked someone to call the little guys to eat. After the 4 dishes were served, he would make the soup. Xiao Bei and the others had already finished their studies for the day. They also brought the little boy who played games with them over to eat together. They had to educate the little boy well. There was no rule against talking while eating. Talking while eating helped with digestion. The more harmonious a family was, the more they liked to chat while eating. If there were conflicts at home, and at the same time, there was pressure from work outside, it was easy to talk while eating. Then, there would be situations where they would not be able to eat due to anger. "Brother, we have already started to arrange for the small periodic labor force to build the new city. I want to ask, when the new city is built, what will happen to the city here?" Xiao Bei drank 2 mouthfuls of soup first. She specially picked out the chopped green onions in the soup to eat. She liked the taste the most, so when she made soup at home, she would deliberately fry the chopped green onions. Zhang Xiaobao stopped eating and said, "We will also renovate here. When the time comes, there will be no distinction between the old and the new. The two will be merged into one, making the city bigger and easier to manage. Also, the outside can be used as a garden." Xiao Bei nodded and continued eating. The little boy who was being educated had also been eating with them for the past few days. He only went home after eating at night. When he came back early in the morning and heard others talking, he could not help but ask, "Brother Xiaobao, are we going to sell the flowers that we planted?" "I'm not selling, and you're not allowed to give me a discount either. When the city gets bigger, it'll take a long time to walk from one end to the other. It'll be good to see a bunch of flowers." Zhang Xiaobao treated them equally. "I am in a good mood when I come back from outside. I can see the flowers before I get home, right?" The little boy asked. "You are so smart. Don't eat the food on the table. Put it there." Zhang Xiaobao praised and stopped the little boy from dropping the food on the table because he was distracted and wanted to eat it. The little boy obediently did not touch it. He picked up another portion and put it in his bowl. He ate it together with the rice. At first glance, it was obvious that he used to eat like this. It was very likely that he did not have a separate plate for the food. He just put the food in his bowl and found a place to squat down and eat. Zhang Xiaobao did not care about this kind of habit. As long as he was comfortable eating, it was fine. As for hygiene and digestion problems, those situations would not occur, because this was already a habit. It was easy to cause problems if it could be changed. If he really wanted to be hygienic, then he would separate the meals. Everyone would eat one portion and use the public utensils to eat. After eating for a while, Xiao Zhu put down her chopsticks and asked her brother, "Brother, I have seen the plan of the new city. Chapter 1283. In the afternoon, the little guys asked to go to the swamp to play. They said that they wanted to check the terrain in advance and teach the little boy, who liked to play games and not go to school, how to catch river snails. They brought a lot of people and specially prepared long bamboo poles with hooks. After the 9 little guys experienced the dangers of the swamp, they had always been afraid of the swamp. As for Zhang Xiaobao not allowing them to build a large fur processing plant, they were not unhappy. After all, they were used to it. They could always find opportunities to make a fortune, but every time this business was done, it would cause conflicts in the local industries, and their brother would stop it. Only those that could make a little money and could make up for the shortcomings of other industries were allowed. So they did not care. At most, they would think about it later. There were plenty of opportunities to make money. They could think about it while learning about the relationships between various industries and the knowledge taught by their brother. For example, this fur processing plant. Idyll was very important. The daily throughput of goods was very large. In addition, there would be a steady stream of small caravans coming and going from the occupied areas by land. Then, whoever monopolized the trade of fur would be able to influence at least 50 provinces through this trade. How could such a big influence be monopolized casually? If Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family built a fur processing plant here, how could other businessmen in the same industry survive? Who would sell the fur to others in the future? Therefore, Xiaobei and the other 8 understood that in an important area of material circulation, there could not be a monopoly in any industry. Otherwise, it would cause artificial price disruption to the whole area and the products in the surrounding radiation area. In turn, this showed that monopolies were very profitable. At the same time, they could gain other benefits beyond the value of the goods, such as local political connections and cross-industry connections. Xiaobei and the others could understand, but the little boy who was being educated by them was confused. He couldn't understand how building a factory had anything to do with all this nonsense. For a moment, the little boy began to have a new yearning for school. He felt that he did not understand, but Xiaobei and the others could. When he played with them, he could not lift his head. After sending his brothers and sisters to the door and watching them leave, Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan, "The local scenery is really good. When we build villas in the future, let's buy 2. We can live here when we are free." Wang Wan did not pay attention to what Zhang Xiaobao said. What villa? Could he come here once a year in the future? Even if they really needed to come over, it was impossible for them to live in the villa. No matter how big the villa was, how could it compare to the restaurant at home? You should learn from the real estate developers in the future and get some money first. Seeing that Wang Wan didn't answer, Zhang Xiaobao said something else. Should we advertise first and ask them to take out a portion of the money as a deposit before the house is built? The agreement is 20 strings of coins per square meter. After the house is built, it will become 50 strings of coins per square meter. If they don't take out the money, we can return the deposit to them for free. Wang Wan asked with a smile. That's right. It's a commonly used method. It's not new anymore. But every time it's used, there will always be people who fall for it. Real estate developers will buy in advance to drive up the sales figures and encourage more people to buy. Then, they will refund the money without paying any interest. At this time, administrative orders should be used to regulate and not a simple market economy. Because guiding the public is one of the functions of the government. Zhang Xiaobao was just saying. He didn't want to use such methods to cheat people to make money. Wang Wan knew that Zhang Xiaobao wasn't saying that he wanted to do this. But with the development of the social economy, other businessmen would think of such a good method, especially when ordinary people were buying houses. When the truly rich people bought expensive houses, no one would dare to cheat them. When the time came, people would be cheated by real estate developers one after another. Other than scolding the real estate developers, they would also complain to the country about why the imperial court didn't do anything. After a long time, the imperial court would lose its credibility. In the future, when there was something that required the help of the people would dawdle in the beginning. Later on, when there was danger, not only would the people not be anxious, but they would also gloat. Then, the country would be finished. Unlike now, when the people were very obedient and did whatever they were told to do. It was said that the people could be ordered, but they couldn't be made to know. But with the current credibility of the imperial court, there was no need to explain. Just tell the people directly that if you dug a ditch in front of their house, even if the people understood, they would work hard to dig a ditch because they believed that the imperial court wouldn't do anything to harm them. Such people's trust was easy to lose, but difficult to gain. It was important to protect them as much as possible. The trust of the people in you wasn't something that you could rely on to harm the people, so you had to cherish it. So, you want the imperial court to strengthen the legislation and enforcement in this area? Wang Wan directly brought up Zhang Xiaobao's plan for this boring matter. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. That's right. Chapter 1284. The officials that were called over by Li Longji did not know that this was a scam specifically targeted at them. The purpose was to make them take the initiative to formulate more perfect laws. Of course, in the end, it was even more impossible to cheat them of their money. Li Longji was originally on the list of scammers, but in the end, Zhang Zhong felt that it was not good to always bully the emperor, so he leaked the news. Thus, the leader of the scam changed. The officials signed a normal contract with the Independent Production and Sales Department under the Ministry of Works. There were only a few conditions. First, if there was a quality problem with the products, they would replace and repair them for free. Second, if they could not provide the products, they would directly return the deposit. Third, once the products were delivered, they would have to pay in full. Fourth, they would write that they had paid a deposit of 150 strings of coins. The content of the contract was very simple, and there were a few key points missing. However, the officials did not think too much about it. They did not even read the contents of the contract before they agreed. 2 days passed by quickly. As the leader, Li Longji once again gathered the officials in his free time and formed a team to go to the place where the fish tanks were sold. When they arrived, they found that there were many people waiting in the reception room. The walls of the reception room were filled with large paintings. When the officials saw the paintings, they were all confused. The people in the paintings were exactly them. There were sales staff explaining who the officials were, what kind of fish tank they liked, and why they liked it. The Minister of Revenue, Wang Bei, had an ugly expression. He felt that the matter of him being pointed at on the wall was a kind of use to him. He went to Zhang Zhong and asked, "Why is my painting on the wall?" "My painting is also on the wall." Zhang Zhong replied. Obviously, Zhang Zhong's answer did not satisfy Wang Bei. That was not what he was asking. Seeing that Zhang Zhong did not have the intention to continue speaking, he went to find Li Longji. Li Longji was greeting the people in the reception room. The people who could come to buy fish tanks were all quite wealthy. When they saw the emperor and the officials, they were very excited. However, they tried hard to restrain themselves and spoke to the emperor cautiously. They did not dare to show too much enthusiasm, for fear of being misunderstood. Therefore, it was very difficult for Li Longji to shake hands with him, so he could only nod his head repeatedly. "Your Majesty," Zhang Zhong hung this official's portrait on the wall and even used this official to promote his products. This official thinks that this shouldn't be the case. Wang Bei waited for Li Longji to finish speaking with a merchant before whispering into his ear. Li Longji seemed to have just realized that there was a portrait on the wall. He looked around and nodded at Wang Bei. I saw that Yuan Qing's portrait is also here. It's not bad. If you want to keep a real picture, you can take a picture. I reckon I can give you a discount. Wang Bei was very distressed. Your Majesty, I'm saying that they should take down my portrait and stop mentioning what kind of fish tank I bought. I'm not their salesperson. Whose family is it? The Bureau of Works belongs to the Bureau of Works, and the Bureau of Works belongs to our great Tang. Don't speak nonsense. Li Longji was only targeting the latter part of Wang Bei's words. Yes, it belongs to our great Tang. Then, this official earnestly requests for your Majesty to step in and ask Zhang Zhong to take down the portrait. Is that possible? Wang Bei stopped complaining and directly made his request. I'll ask for you. Don't be anxious. Li Longji smiled at the few people who bought the fish tanks and waved at Zhang Zhong. The other officials who didn't like to be surrounded by others also gathered around and waited for Zhang Zhong to give an explanation. Zhang Zhong jogged over to Li Longji and asked, Your Majesty, does this official have any instructions? Li Longji pointed at the portrait on the wall. What's the matter? Oh, Your Majesty is asking about this. As for sales, with the fact that all the officials have bought them, the fish tanks can be sold for a high price and the sales will increase at the same time. Your Majesty, I just went to ask. Yesterday and today, there were 425 people who directly paid for the portrait that was hung up the night before. Moreover, the same item is not sold at the previous price of 150 strings of coins, but the actual selling price is 200 strings of coins. Zhang Zhong excitedly reported to Li Longji. Not bad. The performance is gratifying. We need to increase the publicity and sell more good items to satisfy the daily needs of our great Tang citizens. Of course, don't forget to pay taxes. Fish tanks are considered luxury goods and the tax rate is very high. You must not evade taxes. Li Longji praised while at the same time emphasizing the issue of taxes. He turned his head and said to Wang Bei, Wang Qing, I want to congratulate you. The revenue has increased again. Wang Bei had the urge to bang his head against the wall. He pointed at the wall and said to Li Longji, Your Majesty, they're using this official to earn money for the portrait. I know, but the Ministry of Works earned money and paid taxes. Didn't they put you in the Ministry of Revenue? The money is in your hands, so what are you unhappy about? Li Longji said to Wang Bei. That money belongs to the Ministry of Revenue, not this official. They're using this official's identity to earn their money. Your Majesty, this official is a person, a living person, not the Ministry of Revenue. Wang Bei began to explain this matter. He felt that something was wrong. If his child led other children to play and the other children got injured, he would definitely tell his child not to do so in the future. Seeing you nod, it means that you admit it. But if it were our big brothers and sisters, they would take out toys to play with us after they found out about it. While playing, They would also teach us how to lead our own team through the actions and behavior of the characters in the toys. For example, when we are playing, we can't put all our energy into making ourselves happy. We also have to take care of other people. For example, we can observe the places where we are playing and analyze the possible dangers first to reduce our overall losses. This is the teaching method of our big brothers and sisters. They teach us to face all kinds of difficulties in life and think of ways to solve them. What about you? You are escaping. How do you learn it? Later, I will ask my big brothers and sisters to see if there is any good way to make you worry as much as possible because it doesn't involve your 5 families. Xiao Bei didn't hide his pride at all when he spoke. Chen Kaiming and the other 5 adults were dumbfounded. So this was how Xiao Bao and Cuckoo taught their younger siblings. Then how much effort did they put in? No wonder the little guys were so good. Perhaps for Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, they didn't need to spend too much effort to achieve that kind of teaching method. But they couldn't learn it because if they wanted to teach their children well, they first had to ensure that they were better. Chen Kaiming gave up on learning Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's teaching method. He rubbed his hands, looked at his son, and asked, "Let me ask you, other than helping my son do simple carpentry, what else do I need to do to be considered a qualified adult?" Xiao Yuan waved at Chen Kaiming. When Chen Kaiming came closer, Xiao Yuan gestured for him to bend down and then whispered in his ear, "When you ask this in front of your child, you are not qualified." Then Xiao Yuan explained to Chen Kaiming, "Every child worships their father. The Meteor Battle Squad must have sent us a message after they have settled down. Otherwise, they would be in the middle of a battle. If they won the battle, the message they sent back should be Operation Successful. It would not be the 4 words now. Humph. It's the Shenlaw's luck that they didn't attack us. Lu Zhou has built 4 more ships that can be used to transport troops. If they dare to attack us or protest, I'll send out the troops. Let us see the power of my guards and Lu Zhou's wolf soldiers." Wang Wan said with a cold face and a determined look in her eyes. Zhang Xiaobao bit his lip and said, "Even if they don't send out the troops, I'll still teach them a lesson. This matter isn't over yet. How dare they come to Great Tang to bully our women? They shouldn't think that they'll be forgiven by us just because they didn't stop the Meteor Battle Squad. They should be punished for their mistakes. Every time I think about those 2 women, I get so angry that my stomach hurts. My stomach hurts. I'm going to cook." After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he stood up and walked out. Wang Wan followed him and asked, "It's still early, right?" "It's not early. What the little ones encountered today made them angry as well. They're still trying to beat around the bush with us. I'll let them know that the gap between us exists, and it won't be easily reversed. It's just a matter of family education. I'll cook. I'll make twice-cooked pork." Zhang Xiaobao winked at Wang Wan and said. Chapter 1288. In the evening, the detailed contents of the telegram finally arrived. After receiving the order, the Meteor Squad organized an elite tracking team and entered Jinla's territory. The logistics team followed, mobilizing a total of 1,600 people. Along the way, the envoys stopped at a total of 5 tribes. 3 of them were exterminated, and a total of 461 people were killed. Not only did these people not give any useful information, they even tried to use force to stop the envoys, and even poisoned them. According to Wang Wan's order, anyone who tried to stop them was to be killed. Thus, the heads of the 461 people had been cut off, marinated, and hidden. When the envoy was brought back, they would either be brought back together or be brought back by the second echelon, but they had not yet returned. The remaining 2 tribes were very easy to talk to. Not only did they point out the way for the Meteor Squad, they also provided some vegetables. The Meteor Squad used the meat they had hunted to trade with the 2 tribes. At the same time, the 2 tribes were briefed on the current situation in the Great Tang, and they were welcome to settle down at the border. The original tribes there had already dispersed. This way, the 2 tribes could first interact with each other, and then they could deepen their relationship. After that, they went straight to the royal capital and forcibly brought back the envoy who had bullied the women of their own country. They were not stopped by any force, and after Jinla's king Bafawarman sent someone to inquire about the matter, he no longer cared. Of course, he did not send his own soldiers to help capture the envoy. At the same time, he had his people seal off the news so that it would not spread among the common people. He was probably worried that it would affect the morale of the people. The Meteor Squad was currently escorting the envoy back as quickly as possible. On the way back, they found a place with a signal and sent the news to a relay station, all the way to Idyll. After reading the contents of the telegram, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan exchanged a smile. It seems that Bafawarman is rather tactful. I thought that when we went to his royal capital to capture the envoy who had just returned, he would at least say a few words, protest, or even send soldiers to protect the envoy. I didn't think that he would just let it go. Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan with a smile. Wang Wan picked up the paper, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it into the wastepaper basket. She gently shook her head and said, "Maybe he wants to paralyze us first, and then organize the army to fight. We have to give him some pressure first." Their ordinary tribes are quite united. They dare to block our people and poison us. Unfortunately, they are destined to have a bad ending. That's right, they really can kill. More than 400 people died, and perhaps all the youths of the 3 tribes were killed. Why did they have to come to our Great Tang to bully 2 weak girls? Let's see how many lives they have to pay for it. Zhang Xiaobao also shook his head. It was true that many people had died, but he had no regrets, nor did he feel any guilt. Killing was not the goal, but the means. After killing this one, once the news spread, the Great Tang would be at peace with its neighbors. The king of Jinla didn't want the news to spread, but he could help the other party spread the news everywhere. He could also write about it in the newspapers and let the people of the Great Tang see it and feel the power of their country. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan discussed again. In order to continue to put pressure on Jinla and make them as obedient and stable as before, the 2 decided to set off 3 days later. They would travel slowly downstream. They would go to Jianqi Lake to enjoy the scenery, then turn west and cross the Lansang River. They would continue to head west and enter the territory of India, or Piao country, which was also Myanmar. They had to move slowly so that the intelligence personnel from other countries who were stationed in Yi province would have more time to return. If they were too stupid and couldn't return faster than they could, they would have to think of other ways to let their intelligence personnel from other countries get the news. Going down from Yi province would give people the feeling that they were going straight to Jinla. When the king of Jinla found out, they would see if he would send a letter of apology. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's purpose wasn't to fight, but to understand the situation of the various specialties along the way. For example, jade, these things had to be developed properly. There were also gold mines and so on. In addition, they wanted to make more detailed maps to see where they could build roads. In the future, they would occupy those areas. They couldn't be like now, where they would risk their lives to enter the forest from the mountains. After making one round, they could return in winter. They would continue to choose a place and then go there to build. 3 days passed quickly. Xiaobei and the others had already packed their luggage and said goodbye to the children in the school. They also left homework for the little boy who liked to play Monopoly. In fact, it was to let him understand the various data in the game and remember the environment of the places he passed by. After that, he would write a letter and get someone to send it to Xiao Bei and the others before replying. The little boy was very reluctant to leave. He had learned a lot from playing the game. He had obviously learned more than other children of the same age, and this made him yearn for the life of learning in school. People were like this. When they couldn't compare to others, they didn't have the motivation to learn. Once they were strong in a certain aspect, they would become stronger in that aspect because they wanted to protect this advantage. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family's teams took the boat and did their best to advertise that they were going to the Annan Protectorate before going to other places. They even organized a farewell party and left amidst the people's farewells. As soon as they left, the officials in Yi province obviously felt more pressure. Many things that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family arranged after they came over were taken over by them. If they didn't do a good job, the results wouldn't be very good. The fleet moved slowly on the river. In order to reduce the speed when the current was flowing, the boats even set up anti-wind sails to offset some of the power of the current. Other boats hated that they couldn't have an extra pair of wings so that they could move faster. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were afraid that Jin La's intelligence personnel wouldn't be able to send the news back in time, so they specially sent a report to the Annan Protectorate and asked them to do a lot of local advertising. They said that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family would be coming over soon with a large army, so they had to organize people to level the resting place of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family in advance. Moreover, it was a real start of construction. The local people also had to organize and help with the construction of houses. This money was paid by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. In fact, they wouldn't go at all. The buildings and leveled grounds could be used for other things, so they could just treat it as helping to build the place. So busy. Zhang Xiaobao stood at the bow of the boat and sighed. It's fine if we're busy. In fact, compared to ordinary people, we're already very relaxed. We don't need to wake up early every day and return home late. Moreover, what we do is more meaningful than what they do. I don't intend to live a life where home, workplace, home. Wang Wan stood beside Zhang Xiaobao and said to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao pointed at the other boats on the river and said, I'm not talking about us, but them. Our fleet has taken up one of their routes, and this is when all the boats are lined up in a straight line. If they were to move horizontally, they wouldn't be able to move at all. Wang Wan looked in the direction Zhang Xiaobao pointed at, and sure enough, it was very busy there. A large cargo ship had sailed against the current and was now slowly moving forward, buying food at the same time. Normally speaking, the ship would prepare its own food, but looking at the situation, in order to be able to carry more goods, the ship would eat along the way, and buy food wherever it went. The people who had boats near the two sides of the river had an additional business. They would prepare the food and put it in a big bucket on the small boat, and then sail the small boat into the river. A small sail was hung on the boat, and the words "Box Lunch Sail" were written on the sail. Many cargo ships would let them pass, and then use a rope to hang the food up, pour out the food, and then hang the bucket back. It was very convenient, and it also saved manpower. There was no need to arrange an extra kitchen to cook, and there was no need to prepare food. If drinking water, they could just drink directly. The only drawback was that the cost was high. The food bought was more expensive than the food cooked by oneself, but not by a lot. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth it. Wang Wan really didn't see such a situation. Now that she saw it, she took out a telescope and looked carefully. The large cargo ship happened to be going against the current, and its speed was not fast. The small boat was flexible, and it was easy to get close to it, but it also looked very dangerous. If they were not careful, the small boat would accidentally hit the big ship.